When you enter into a contract to purchase residential property in Queensland, in most cases you'll receive the benefit of a cooling off period. This can bring peace of mind because during that time you can terminate the contract without reason. But such termination is not without penalty, and whether you're buying or selling, there are some other things worth knowing about the cooling off period. I'm John Gallagher from Argon Law, where we regularly advise on contracts for the sale of residential land and cooling off periods in particular. The most important thing to know is that the cooling off period does not apply in every case. For example, it doesn't apply to a contract entered into upon the fall of the hammer at auction. It's also possible for the buyer to waive or agree to shorten the cooling off, although this must be done in writing. So be sure you know that the cooling off period is in place if you think you might need it. The cooling off period commences on the day that the buyer or its solicitor receives the fully signed contract from the seller. Or, if the buyer is the second party to sign the contract, it commences when the buyer tells the seller that it is signed. The cooling off period finishes at 5 p.m. on the 5th business day thereafter. Although you should note that if the period commences before 5 p.m. on a business day, that day counts as the first of the 5 days. It's important to know that a signed notice must be given to the seller or its solicitor before 5 p.m. on the 5th day to terminate under the cooling off provisions. So be mindful of leaving it till the last minute if you change your mind. As I said in the beginning, there's a penalty for terminating during the cooling off period. The seller is entitled to require the buyer to pay a termination fee of 0.25% of the purchase price. This is usually deducted from the deposit before it is returned to the buyer, which can make changing your mind a costly exercise. A buyer who doesn't terminate during the cooling off period is still able to rely on other conditions to terminate the contract, such as the finance or billing and pest provisions, but only if the specific requirements of those provisions are satisfied. If you have any doubts about how the cooling off provisions operate, then ask your agent before you sign or give us a call. And if you found this video useful, then please share it with someone you know who's looking to buy property. And be sure to subscribe to our video blog. See you again soon.